Remember those days when SpongeBob SquarePants had us glued to the TV? Those classic episodes that we couldn't get enough of? Well, things have changed a lot since then. If you've watched the newer episodes, you might have noticed that something feels different. Let's talk about what went wrong with SpongeBob SquarePants. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the evolution of SpongeBob. We'll compare the old episodes we grew up loving to the newer ones that are airing now. We'll break down the animation, pacing, jokes, and characters to see how different, and maybe not as good, things have become over the years. It's going to be a fun trip down memory lane, but also a bit of a critique on where things went off track. Just a quick heads up, I might sound a bit critical of modern SpongeBob, but if you still love the show, that's totally cool. This is just my take on how the show has evolved. So, let's get started and see what's changed in the world of Bikini Bottom. Alright, let's start with the animation. Remember the early days of SpongeBob? The first season had that charming, hand-drawn feel. Everything was done with cell animation, which meant each frame was painstakingly hand-drawn. This gave the show a unique, almost rustic quality. The colors were a bit duller, and SpongeBob looked a bit different in every frame due to the human touch. It wasn't perfect, but that's what made it feel so special and nostalgic. Then in Season 2, the show switched to digital art. This change brought a new level of polish to SpongeBob's world. The colors became more vibrant, and the characters got those iconic, exaggerated expressions we all know and love. This period is often considered the peak of SpongeBob's art style. The animation was cleaner but still retained that quirky charm. Those over-the-top expressions were used sparingly and effectively, adding to the comedic impact without overwhelming the viewer. Fast forward to the modern episodes, and you'll notice a big shift. The colors are now super saturated, almost neon-like. SpongeBob looks like a bright yellow highlighter on your screen. Sure, the animation is smoother and cleaner, but it's lost some of that original charm. The biggest change, however, is in how the characters are animated. In the old episodes, exaggerated facial expressions were used to enhance the story and the humor. Now these expressions are almost constant, making the show feel frantic and over the top. It seems like the goal now is to keep the viewer's attention at all costs, with non-stop action and extreme visuals. While this might work for keeping kids entertained, it sacrifices the subtlety and charm that made the original SpongeBob so endearing. The animation has evolved, but in trying to be more eye-catching, it feels like it's lost some of its soul. This shift in animation style sets the stage for many of the other changes we'll be talking about, so let's keep this in mind as we move on to the pacing of the show. If you're a longtime fan, you probably remember the relaxed, almost leisurely pace of the early episodes. The show took its time to develop each scene, letting the humor and situations unfold naturally. Characters would interact in ways that felt genuine, and the jokes were often set up over the course of the entire episode. This slower pace allowed for more character development and richer storytelling. Take an episode like Pizza Delivery from Season 1. SpongeBob and Squidward go on a simple mission to deliver a pizza, but the episode is filled with little moments of character interaction, subtle humor, and even a bit of drama. There's a build-up to the jokes, and each gag feels earned. The pacing is steady, allowing viewers to really get into the story and enjoy the ride. Now compare that to the modern episodes. The pace has ramped up significantly. It feels like the show is in a constant rush, trying to squeeze in as many jokes and gags as possible. The scenes are shorter, the jokes are quicker, and there's a lot less time spent on character interaction. It's almost like watching a series of rapid-fire sketches rather than a cohesive story. The modern SpongeBob seems designed to keep kids' attention with constant action and quick laughs, much like the short, punchy content you find on social media platforms like TikTok. This faster pace can be overwhelming. It sacrifices the build-up and payoff that made the original episode so satisfying. There's less room for the show to breathe, less time for the characters to develop, and the humor often feels forced and frantic. Instead of setting up situational comedy that flows naturally from the characters and their world, the modern episodes rely heavily on quick gags and visual humor. The humor in the early episodes was something truly special. It was clever, subtle, and often layered with jokes that appealed to both kids and adults. The writers crafted a humor that flowed naturally from the characters' personalities and the situations they found themselves in. Classic episodes like Band Geeks and Chocolate with Nuts are filled with iconic lines and memorable moments that have stood the test of time. In the old SpongeBob, humor often came from the interactions between characters and the absurdity of everyday life in Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob's relentless optimism, Patrick's lovable stupidity, and Squidward's perpetual grumpiness created a dynamic that was both hilarious and relatable. The jokes had a certain charm and wit, often relying on well-timed dialogue and visual gags that were used sparingly for maximum impact. There was a balance in the humor that made it enjoyable for viewers of all ages. Fast forward to the modern episodes, and you'll notice a stark difference. The humor has become much more exaggerated and, frankly, a bit more random. The show now leans heavily on slapstick comedy and over-the-top physical humor. The jokes are louder, more in your face, and often feel like they're trying too hard to be funny. There's less of the clever, situational humor that made the original episodes so endearing. One major change is the frequency and intensity of the visual gags. In the old episodes, these gags were used sparingly and usually served to enhance the comedy of a situation. Now they're a constant presence, with characters pulling exaggerated faces and engaging in wild antics at almost every turn. This shift seems aimed at keeping a younger audience engaged, but it can feel overwhelming and detracts from the subtle humor that used to characterize the show. Another difference is the reliance on quick, unrelated jokes. The modern episodes often feel like a series of disconnected gags rather than a cohesive story with a natural comedic flow. This can make the humor feel forced and less satisfying. Instead of building up to a punchline or letting a joke develop over the course of an episode, the show now opts for rapid-fire humor that doesn't always hit the mark. In the early seasons, the characters were rich and multidimensional, each with distinct personality traits, dreams, and quirks that made their interactions engaging and their stories memorable. Take SpongeBob himself. In the first few seasons, he was a mix of childlike wonder, boundless optimism, and a strong sense of responsibility. He wasn't just a goofy, happy-go-lucky sponge. He had moments of vulnerability and growth. Episodes like Employee of the Month showcased his dedication and competitive spirit, while Pizza Delivery highlighted his determination and heart, turning a simple delivery into an epic adventure. Patrick Star, SpongeBob's best friend, was more than just a lovable idiot. He had episodes where his simplicity brought profound wisdom, like in Patrick SmartPants, where gaining intelligence made him realize the value of simplicity. In Big Pink Loser, Patrick's attempts to better himself revealed his insecurities and desire for recognition, adding depth to his character beyond his usual comedic stupidity. Squidward Tentacles, often the grumpy foil, had episodes that peeled back his layers to show his aspirations and softer side. In Band Geeks, Squidward's dream of leading a successful band came to life, showing his passion for music and his yearning for success. Squidville depicted his struggle for peace and his eventual realization that, despite his complaints, he needed the chaos and unpredictability brought by SpongeBob and Patrick to feel alive. Supporting characters also had significant development. Mr. Krabs wasn't just a money-obsessed boss. He had a fatherly side shown in episodes like Clams, where his sentimental attachment to his first dollar was revealed. Sandy Cheeks, the adventurous Texan squirrel, had episodes exploring her background and scientific prowess, such as Pressure and Tea at the Tree Dome, which showcased her struggle to adapt to life underwater while maintaining her Texan pride. Even Plankton, the perennial villain, was given moments of depth, like in Fun, where his loneliness was explored, making him more than just a one-note antagonist. In contrast, modern SpongeBob episodes tend to portray characters in a more one-dimensional light. SpongeBob is often reduced to an overly enthusiastic, almost annoyingly cheerful character, lacking the nuance and depth of his early days. Patrick's intelligence has been dialed down to extreme levels of stupidity, sometimes making him a mere caricature of his former self. Squidward's grumpiness has become more exaggerated, often lacking the subtlety and nuance of his earlier characterizations. This simplification extends to the supporting characters as well. Mr. Krabs is primarily shown as obsessively greedy, Sandy as the hyper-competent scientist, and Plankton as the perpetual villain, with fewer episodes exploring their deeper traits and stories. For example, in the episode Sandy's Nutty Nieces, Sandy's nieces are introduced as annoying brats and remain that way throughout the episode without any growth or change. Unlike earlier characters who often had arcs that developed over the course of an episode. Additionally, new characters in the modern episodes often lack the depth and development seen in earlier seasons. They tend to be more one-note and are frequently used as devices for quick gags rather than being integrated into the show's fabric, with thoughtful arcs and meaningful interactions. This makes their interactions feel repetitive and less engaging compared to the rich, character-driven narratives of the early seasons. So that's a wrap on what went wrong with SpongeBob SquarePants. We've seen how the animation, pacing, humor, and character development have all evolved over the years, and it's clear that the show has changed a lot from its original magic. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think about the modern episodes of SpongeBob compared to the classics? Do you miss the old charm, or do you enjoy the new direction the show has taken? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with fellow SpongeBob fans. And hey, if you're new here or haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss out on more fun content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay awesome, everyone.